It's like, how much nodding is too much nodding?
There you go. Don't even do no. We not going to start this without bringing the beat back because Kasey was trying to nod her head.
Delicately.
You got my music right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she just wasn't sure. She been on
freestyle. Look like
For an hour of the day.
Yeah, she's been on these conservative talk shows and radio shows.
So welcome back. We are all live on Radio Row here at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, Super Bowl 58. We got our next guest.
Long day.
The Gaze.
Kasey Hudson, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to sit down with you guys, to be here, be in Vegas. Yes, all the things.
Yes.
And it's only a couple days in, but it feels like it's been a whole week already here in Vegas. Yeah, that's the wild part.
Facts.
Hashtag
facts. So how many times have you been to Radio Row?
This is my 6th Radio Row.
Wow.
First Super Bowl I ever covered was 2017 in Houston. So it's been a minute. Somebody else asked me that too, and when I mentioned it, he goes, "Can I ask you how old you are?" And I was like, "You can, because that means you're giving me a compliment after." So I'll take it.
How's the Vegas experience been?
So I caught in yesterday. And so the adjustment for me with Vegas is, while everything is right here, you're still walking miles.
Oh, yes.
So I had to remember that part. Like, no, don't tell anyone you're 5 minutes away. That's a lie. And while that lie works back home because everybody knows me, here it's a little more rude if I do that. So, it's been adjusting to the hike. Getting coffee was a whole adventure. But,
that's the black rule. I'll be there in 5 minutes. I mean, you just got out of the shower. Yeah. I'm walking out the door, and you're not dressed yet. Yeah. I'm down the street means you're getting in the car and you're 15 minutes away.
See, now combine that with island behavior. Like, I'm not in the shower when I lie. I'm actually still on the phone planning things and then getting in the shower and doing the rest of it.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about yourself to the viewers that may not know who Kasey Hudson is.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story at this part, because the past year, Kasey Hudson has been all hockey. That's when I met and got a chance to talk with Courtney. I've covered the NHL for 6 years. I've covered the Tampa Bay Bucks for 9 seasons. Did some national stuff NFL wise, and then betting has been, the new baby. So the past 2.5 years, it's kind of opened some new doors and stuff where I touch on all sports, but I would say like my bread and butter, and I'm a big numbers gal once you follow my content closely enough, but hockey and NFL are where it's at for me.
Okay, so you're NHL in general, not a specific team.
Well, Tampa Bay Lightning, I'm their backup in studio host. Yeah. Okay. So whenever our head guy's out in Gender Equality Month and stuff, I get to go riddle off the stats on the big screen for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Shout out to the Bolts. So yeah, they're my home team, but I do a lot more coverage across the board for all hockey teams now.
Okay, well, BS3 Network, we cover the Dallas Stars. So,
I saw.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and end this interview now. The Lightning.
I apologize for the things that we have put y'all through, but I also don't.
Yes. So talk about the sports betting part of it, the Super Bowl. Talk about a little bit about what are some of your favorite props heading into this game.
Yeah, this has been a hard one.
Yeah.
The spread alone tells you where everyone how hard it's been to digest all of this, right? So I wanted to get more intricate when it came to some of the things. Obviously people want to lean towards a Travis Kelce touchdown and a Christian McCaffrey touchdown and stuff, but in these big games, these close matchups, you got to look to some unsung heroes, and I know George Kittle isn't particularly an unsung hero, but he's not really talked about enough. And a colleague of mine pointed out so beautifully that while the Chiefs defense is very freakish, very good, their athleticism comes at a more lateral play versus vertical. So if the Niners can come in and hit them really heavy in the jaw vertically, George Kittle is athletic enough to do that. George Kittle's athletic enough to make you pay for some mistakes downfield. And I think that he's going to hit over his 48.5 receiving yards. And his receptions, guys, they only have him at 3.5 receptions, which blows my mind because Brock Purdy has a trust fall with George Kittle. We've seen it. So in those panicked moments, he's going to look to the maniac to get the job done. So I love hitting the over of 3.5 receptions. I like George Kittle's over. Somewhere else I'm at is with Brock Purdy's over 31.5 attempts. Not saying that he's going to make all those completions. His completion sits at 20, but I think he's going to go for the attempts. They're going to expect this team to run the ball down their throat because that's supposed to be the weak point. Everyone thinks the Ravens abandoned their game plan to run the ball down their throat. So why not come and do that? But Shanahan's a little too special for that. I feel like he'll be versatile. I feel like he'll put the run play in at a perfect moment, and he'll put the pass play in at a perfect moment. And Brock Purdy can handle the blitz. Him under pressure has been pretty tremendous.
Yeah.
And you're one of the. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say you're one of the first ones that has said Kittle's going to have over 3.5 receptions. Everybody's been talking about Kittle's going to be just blocking, which they probably will. They're going to run the football, but we forget how good Kittle is. Everybody's talking about Travis Kelce having all these receptions, but we forget how athletic, as you said, George Kittle really is. So you're one of the ones that really hit on that. I think he's going to have a big game too, because if San Francisco goes down like they've been doing the rest of the playoffs, then they're going to have to throw the football, and I think Kittle will be a key factor in that.
And they won't expect it as much. And his matchups on that side of the field, he's the better athlete in a lot of aspects for that. And I think people forget that that's where Juszczyk comes in and kind of helps alleviate and be an addition to that offensive line. Right. So, Kittle can block, but that's not all he can do.
Right. And we forget about Juszczyk.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I love about this Niners team. You're almost talking about a team that still has an old school format, a halfback, a fullback. Like, do we talk about those guys anymore?
No.
And they don't even have Juszczyk on any betting lines, not too many at least. And that's a guy you can easily put in for, some 30-yard, hitting 30 yards or hitting over 2.5 receptions and stuff. He's going to be a great alleviator for this team so that they can match kind of the magician that Andy Reid is. Yeah. That's what it's going to come down to. Andy Reid is very spectacular. He's very much an improv coach, and he's smart about it. Kyle Shanahan can kind of do the same thing. He has more targets to do it with, which will help kind of bring him up to Andy Reid's level, and somewhat in my mind.
He has more notable talent.
Yes.
Now, I think two things. So, me and Dog are Cowboys fans, so we know about.
Yeah, you can say that. Definitely.
There you go. Oh, you didn't even let it ride out that long.
See?
Thank you.
So we know definitely about Kittle, and there's a play I always bring up. I like Trayvon Diggs, but you can't tackle like this blindly.
Yeah. And
you whiffing at the air, so we know what Kittle can do. But also, I wanted to. What was I going to say? I also just wanted to say with Shanahan, I think one of the only things that could affect the Niners is if he over plans and over game plans, because he seems like a guy that is pretty pinpoint. Yeah. And I think that's how Purdy's been as great as he's been. It's because he's very pinpoint and accurate in what he decides to do. Mm-hmm. Do you think that could be an issue of him over planning, over trying to put a game plan together against the Chiefs?
It could be, because, over preparation is a thing. I think it takes away from your ability to be creative. And then, like I said, kind of the theme with the Chiefs here is their improv ability. Travis Kelce, amazing improv player. He can change the entire route and game plan in the blink of an eye. Patrick Mahomes matches that energy. That's why they're such a dynamic duo. And it starts at the head. Andy Reid can do it. And he's got a long list of or a big hat to pull tricks out of. Right. I think with Kyle Shanahan, it's more just so not overthinking it, but trusting his initial instinct with things. Yeah. You have more targets. You have more talent. Not to say the Chiefs aren't talented. Health-wise, they're kind of banged up in certain areas, and they did lose out on some guys over the past years. So Kelce comes out of the mix. Pacheco comes out of the mix. Now you're forcing a guy like Rice, who's more of a yak guy, yards after catch. Right. All right, well, defense-wise, the coverage for the 49ers can manage yards after catch potentially if they don't overthink their game plan. So I do think you're right about kind of trying to put too much behind it. They can be creative and shift on a go. It's trusting their guys.
Yeah, and they probably have had the most drop passes probably this year.
Which is something you want to try to play into, right?
Yeah.
Forcing
if
those
that rears
mistakes.
its ugly head, then who knows where this is going to go.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
I just need the audience to know that Kasey not only is the most fashionable guest we've had thus far at the Super Bowl, she knows more about this game and probably sports in general than I do. And she uses catchy phrases like matching energy in her analysis. Isn't that something? She's just getting it all. She's touching all the bases.
I'm just a nerd. I appreciate the fashion tip, though. I didn't know it because I missed Media Row last year. So I was like, gosh, am I supposed to kind of dress up for this? I don't remember. And then the walking came in and I was like, absolutely not. You're getting Vans and some denim. And we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, that comfy. Yes. Definitely.
Yes, because y'all don't want to see me in these ankles if I'm trying to adjust after an hour of Media Row.
Right.
Like I will go barefoot. I am not ashamed.
Now you said something about Island. Where are you from?
So my mom was born in Trinidad.
Okay.
And the rest of her lineage is from Venezuela and then Europe.
Mate.
Good night, Mike.
You're in Venezuela.
Thank you.
Look,
See, I'm here all week.
he didn't exactly. If he would have rolled an R in there, then he was on with that.
Yeah.
But Trinidadians are very English, so my mom does have a British accent.
Love it.
But there's a lot of things that she says very like Spanish heritage wise or whatever. So yeah, we very much have our own lingo, to say the least.
Yo hablo español cuando yo quiero también.
Oh, that's good.
Gracias.
I
just learned that
appreciate
today.
I was like, who was on before me?
I want to transition to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, since you were right at the heart of it all, and they did beat my Eagles. I mean, they tore them up, and, but Baker Mayfield had a tremendous year. Baker Mayfield had a really good year, and I know there's talks about re-signing him. What do you think, since you covered the team? What do you think? Should they re-sign him, or where does you think he will go?
Without a doubt, they need to resign him.
Right.
Yes.
That's not an if and or maybe. They need to make it happen.
He's earned it.
Yes.
He definitely.
He's earned it in a number of ways, because one of the things that I thought of when this conversation first really started to get serious, especially because the threat of Kyle Trask coming in, that finally died down. I was so sick of that. Kyle Trask is not the Bucs franchise quarterback. I'm sorry. And UF doesn't really breed quarterbacks. Thank you.
Yes.
So now that all that's aside and they started having a serious conversation, I'm thinking to myself, if this team who's had cap space issues, who's still sitting in a confining area, cannot afford to bring back Mike Evans, what's the leadership look like on this team? Well, you're looking at a guy like Trey Palmer that Baker Mayfield not only mentored but connected with tremendously in key and clutch moments. And you're looking at the younger receivers who have had great training camps but just need more time. And I'm thinking to myself, if they're already connecting with Baker now, imagine where this team can go. They didn't want to call it a rebuild. They called it a realignment, restructure, all these other things besides the fact. That's fine. But now you have to have a leader that young guys are going to respond to. And the shadow of Tom Brady was a tough period for this team to go through.
Yeah, because they went all in.
They did.
Yeah.
And
they
now you have a quarterback.
Antonio Brown too.
Oh my gosh, let's not bring that up, okay? But now you have a team that's going to stand behind this quarterback, stand behind this leader, and they also feel that reciprocation. He's not this fragile guy in the pocket to where the offensive line kind of have to take an extra layer of a beating. Where Tom Brady got to the point of his career where he didn't want to get hit, he released the ball faster than it needed to come out without a play formulating. Baker's going to use his legs. So you got a dual threat guy who's a mentor and connects with these young guys. I love the energy between him and Mike Evans, but I think he's the perfect guy to continue building a team around. This offensive line loves him. Tristan Wirfs, arguably one of the best O-linemen in the league, has this rapport and this bond with Baker Mayfield. We've seen that some of the best teams in the National Football League, it's that dynamic between the quarterback, your offensive linemen, and your top receiving units. And that receiving unit's about to get pretty young outside of Chris Godwin. So Baker's the answer.
Mike Evans is done in Tampa Bay.
I don't think they can afford him. I mean, after the season wrapped up, the couple interviews that he's done and stuff, he's been pretty keen on what his number is. And unless they take somebody off of defense with a larger contract, or they get Shaq Barrett to do like a sweetheart deal or something, I don't know where the numbers kind of fall in alignment for that. Okay. And he's already kind of he's consistently restructured his contract for this team. He's made the sacrifices, so he deserves it.
Okay, so historically, this GM and the people who run the finances, they're managing the salary cap and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. In Dallas, we tend to hold on to people too long. Have not knowing much about their front office. Do they have a tendency to hold on to people too long?
Loyalty to a fault.
Coaches.
I was gonna say the coaching thing really threw me. I was sad for Dallas fans, honestly.
They kept the. We call them the clapper. They kept the clapper for way too long. Jason Garrett, way too long. And here's a funny story. I don't know if you heard this, but he he actually like locked himself in the facility, and they were like, "You got to go, man. We're not."
No,
like, I'll do anything. I'll be the team janitor. I'll be anything.
the
Just let me
equipment
say.
manager.
Wow. Like,
He might be Jerry Jones' son. We don't even know.
I thought, sometimes some storylines came out about debates that were going on, and I was like, are these guys related and not telling anybody? Because there was a weird dynamic going on
with
there.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Did he marry one of his daughter? No, that's not him.
No, I don't
Somebody was married to his daughter. Man.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so I was surprised they made the move with Zeke Elliott. It was the right move. He was done, and even when fans are talking about we need Zeke for the playoffs, I'm like, Zeke, it's done.
Yeah.
Don't be concerned about this one highlight you see on Sundays that you think he still got something.
That he's going to do it forever.
Yeah, right. That one Patriots play, he had a 20-yard run, and Cowboys salivated.
And I hope and as much as I love Tony Pollard, you got to move on.
Yes.
Because you don't pay guys like that kind of a number.
Yep.
So you got to, you can always get a running back. Well, nowadays you can get a running back and you can get a good one in round 4 that can come be beast mode
or be committee
and use him for one contract only and say goodbye.
Yeah, contracts have changed
5 years
a lot.
As far as I'm concerned, if you're a running back. So.
And now you're seeing like a new dynasty come to life, right? With the Chiefs returning to the Super Bowl again. I think some teams are less scared to look longevity again because for a second everyone was trying to be the NBA, put together these power. I almost said power play, put together these power rosters that 1 year, maybe 2 years, you put yourself in these bad cap situations, and then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here? Because the argument that the Chiefs have on their side is sometimes people look at them and are like, oh, well, they lost Tyreek Hill. They lost talent. No, but the core structure has been consistent. And that mentality, that leadership, like, these big games, that's where that stuff comes through the most. You're on the same dialogue, and that communication comes through quicker and faster without any questions. And so that's where the Bucs need to get. They've got some great core. I think it's worth keeping that defense together, almost over keeping Mike Evans, because the wide receiving, the routes are going to change with Baker Mayfield back there with more time under his belt and him fully taking the reins. And that creativity is going to really pull on anybody. It's not going to be whoever's the quarterback in the Mike Evans show. Mike Evans has had to be the hero. Right. This team is kind of veering away from that.
Yeah. And you used a very key C word, core. I'm going to use another one in Kansas City and San Francisco, and that is culture.
Yes.
And I heard during opening night, both teams talked about their culture being the difference in winning and losing, especially those players like Randy Gregory, who came from the Cowboys, who said the culture is different, and that is the reason why we win on the field. It doesn't have any, they got more talent than us sometimes on paper.
Yep.
But the culture is there. So I think that is the deal with Andy Reid and the Chiefs, and the reason why they can lose a Tyreek Hill and still be productive because their culture is set.
And they have Mahomes. When you have a superstar quarterback, you can make you can hide other things. Now, there were some losses they had because Valdez-Scantling dropped the ball and what's his name was offsides. But when you have a quarterback like Mahomes, he can hide some holes and some.
Yeah, he's one of those quarterbacks that he kind of levels up everybody around him.
Right,
and if somebody can't get it done, he can. And that's a very scary thing. But kind of touching back on the culture comment, I think it was Andy Reid's press conference this morning, and they were just kind of talking about the culture, the atmosphere, the fan base and stuff. And they said something that really kind of pulled at me. Patrick Mahomes even said it. Their fans don't really chirp them. Their fans don't come down on them when they don't get things right. And you have a lot of teams and organizations and cities that
number
they
one
turn on you so quick. And then comes back to that mental aspect of the game. Because like now you got that S on your chest for a city that's not supporting you. So now you've got more to prove in a different way. Right. So that made me realize, wow, this team actually does have a different air that they're breathing, because if they make a mistake or when they almost lost to the Jets and I'm over here like, who the heck is this team? Their city wasn't doing that to them. I might have been, but not their city. So culturally, there's kind of that no quit. They don't give up on the players on that roster. They don't give up on that team. And I think it's also because every guy on that roster is in that community when they're not on the field. So there's almost a more personal touch to things. Not saying other teams don't do it, but I think that they just kind of took an extra step with it. And it's from the head down. The Hunts are always out there and involved in everything. So it does go about in so many ways to where they have a push, and the outside noise is easier to cancel out because your community is supporting you and holding you up.
Yeah, and you may not want to go there, but I will when you say other teams don't do that the majority of the teams don't, and when they do, it's not genuine. It is because I need to check this box to say that we did it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, and maybe even the part of the country that Kansas City is in, that the community is a little different, right?
Midwest.
That's one thing. I went to cover the draft, and the community is just different. They bond together just on some traditional, this is our city stuff, you know. So
simple.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Right. And Dallas, and it's hard to be a Cowboy fan and not be guilty of this, but I promise you, a city like Dallas, that you talk about the mental aspect of it. Dak Prescott gets roasted. Okay. And this is a guy whose family has mental health issues that they have actively, openly talked about.
And the losses that he has consumed over the years, to still be able to put on a suit and do something other than grieve.
That's right.
Is wild to comprehend.
Yeah. Which is why I think I'm of the opinion now. In fact, Solomon Wilcox was on earlier today, and he said Dak is a bad brother, athletically, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, I think he has the athletic ability to do what he needs to do, but I really think it gets in his head.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially if it starts the way this game started with who was it? We just got beat by
Green Bay.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It gets in his head because he starts. Okay, this is all happening again. And then you start thinking about, what is this interview going to be like? What is the fans are going to say? What is the, so it gets in this, and he even said it. A lot of people were shocked at the fact that he talked about, it was moving a little fast for me. So it took to the second quarter before my mind slowed down. You're a 30-year-old quarterback now, been in the league 8 years. Should that be a problem?
And you don't have mental lags like that without outside pressure.
Yeah.
I think he wasn't focused on the game. He was already thinking about what's everybody thinking. Yeah.
And I think I've said this, I'll say it again. I think he's good, but not great. I think to get over the hump, especially in the playoffs, you got to have something. We don't know what it is. We say it's the it factor. We say whatever it is.
You're going to pay him $50 million?
He's about to get paid, though. I wish I had a straight cash homie.
Straight cash homie, right.
In my opinion, Dak is the kind of quarterback that could go to an Andy Reid, or that could go to a Kyle Shanahan, and he could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you like this, something I saw, because I pay very close attention to body language and things of that nature. And people in our community, we can look at folks and tell what they think in a way that a lot of folks can't. And I'm telling you, earlier when Mike McCarthy's first year, they were in mini camp or training camp, one of the two, and I saw the way Dak looked at McCarthy when McCarthy was trying to joke with him. And I said, he does not like that dude.
It don't translate.
I personally don't think, at his heart of hearts, I don't think Dak likes Mike McCarthy.
Right. So funny you mentioned that, because when they were talking about the potential coaching moves happening over there, everyone's like, Bill Belichick's the answer. He's the answer. And I said, you guys aren't thinking of the quarterback, because I can't see a Dak Prescott connecting with a Bill Belichick. QB whisperer, whatever you want to say, that's fine. But, he's a no-huddle offense kind of guy. Dak's coming up in a more versatile offense. He wants to go by the fly. So you want to fly by the seat of your pants, and then you want tradition to come in and put you in this structure. That worked for Tom Brady. Tom Brady needed structure because that helped give him pillars to reach, where Dak Prescott's kind of like a bring me this and I'll do the rest kind of guy. Right. So that's where body language and all that stuff comes in, because you don't see Dak celebrating every situation that comes to Belichick. You honor what has been done, but the connection just never hit for me. And I didn't think that was the answer. I thought, if nothing else, like Mike Vrabel would have been a good one, players coach kind of guy. Yeah. Dak needs somebody who's going to come down to earth with him and level with him in order for him to flourish. And
the team as a whole needs a hard-nosed coach.
Yeah.
They're probably top 5. I don't know where they are exactly, but top 5 in penalties.
Yeah.
You cannot do that if you expect to win anything.
Yeah,
and then,
I felt that pain with the Bucs.
It's a mental lapse. Right. The way that collapsed against the Packers was a mental collapse and a preparation. That's the coaching. If you're not preparing your team to be ready, that's on a coach. Now, obviously, the players executed,
but it's a coach.
But it was a horrible game plan.
Yeah. And now they're in talks with Rex Ryan right now, so they need someone like that.
You hadn't heard about that?
That was today. He was the coordinator. Yes.
I wish so. No, I can't. Now I'm gonna be mad the rest
Just
of the day.
ruined his day.
For how many years?
Yeah, right.
But I'm gonna tell you another way to look at Mike McCarthy in Dak's eyes. Right? Think about a divorced couple, and the stepdaddy come in. Jason Garrett was his daddy for 8 years.
Yeah.
Mom and daddy got divorced. Mike McCarthy, the stepdad.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's not welcomed all the way in.
Yeah, right.
He's gonna be on the outside
At least
looking
the
in.
first stepdad ain't gonna be nothing nice. The second stepdad gonna get a little love because you rescued me for the first one. But I'm telling you, hey, I don't think he likes Mike McCarthy.
This is, I think, with the Cowboys. Yeah, and Courtney, I'll come to you. With the Cowboys, this is not a one problem solved situation.
Right.
There's a lot of problems, and they don't want to try to solve any of them. They just want to keep putting band-aids on problems. They're gonna say we're going all in.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
That's
And then they say we've known that we could go all the time.
Yeah, I know.
That's cap anyway.
I know. You say that, and you keep the fans on this leash, and you just keep saying things. In the regular seasons, I guarantee you they're gonna go 12-5, maybe 10-7, whatever.
And I'm gonna say this, okay? So I done already made some controversial statements. Dak don't like McCarthy. Here's another one. You said they got a bunch of problems that can't be fixed. I'm gonna tell you one that'll fix all of their problems. Because the way the Cowboys system is set up, the way they run their organization, there's only one type of coach that can fix this, and that is a black coach. Because black people have learned to navigate a situation in a workplace to where they're getting it from up here and they're getting it from here, right? A good coach is a filter. You got to filter that out so you know what to give them. So a black coach who can relate to his players knows how to keep that junk out in a way
to not have it so involved with the players.
It don't impact the field.
That's a whole nother level.
And I'm telling you, that is
they do need to have a separation of church and state over there.
It's murky.
That's no shade against a white coach or anything like that. I promise you it's not. It's just that in that particular situation, to navigate the way that organization is set up,
he'd be the quickest guy to happen.
Mike Tomlin, you think any of that stuff that Jerry Jones has got going on is going to affect Mike Tomlin, his relationship with his players?
That's what I mean by players first kind of guy, because you're going to protect your players at all costs, and you're going to shield them because you know how those things affect you because of your experience. Right. You know that if you're worried about the owner of the team having words about your performance, there's just a lot of filtering that needs to happen, but players, coaches do it best. I talk more about it when it comes to hockey because that's what we have in Tampa Bay with our hockey coach. He's not going to sit there and ridicule any of his players for the media's advantage. He's not going to give you a storyline because he knows at the end of the day that he doesn't want that player to go back out and continue to play in the verbal mess that just happened. So I think that's a big thing, and I think that's what's going to help these players out more, especially because like younger players, if you feel like you trust your coach, if you feel like they have your best interest, you're also not going to feel the need to have these disturbing, monstrous contracts within your first 3 years. You're going to allow yourself to feel things out more on a proper budget so that you have the freedom to maybe go somewhere else or do other things. You don't feel like you have to be locked in one city forever, and that's the name of the game. It's really not anymore.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you the reason why Jimmy Johnson couldn't last and the reason why Bill Parcells couldn't last. Those are not the type of people who have had to appease in life.
And they're not powder puffs.
I'm telling you, Rudy
Poos, Michelin Man.
So what do you guys think of Todd Bowles?
I love Todd Bowles. He doesn't seem, from outside looking in, as like a strong vocal person, but his presence and his track record, I think, speaks to people, and that's why they respect him.
I'm not a big fan.
You're not a big fan?
No. I feel like that we had one incident last season where it almost seemed like he threw Gio Bernard under the bus, and it was look. This is a lot of assuming and he said, she said, and it was just the tone and tenor of how everything went down. But then it's the silence after, and unless I would feel differently if I felt like he was a player's coach who's just his silence is to keep his everything in the locker room. But it's almost just like a non-answer for a non-answer.
Okay, so she's describing Jason Kidd.
Yeah,
she's describing Jason Kidd.
Yeah, I could see that comparison.
But we know that because we're watching him a little closer. So I would have to lean to her.
Once a week, Jason Kidd says, they keep complaining about the refs. And, which one of them to do?
I'm just watching the game like y'all are.
But then you said Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles at the time had Tom Brady too. So
right, and even then it felt like a disconnect, you know, because like brilliant defensive mind, brilliant.
Yeah.
Could be an even more successful head coach in a different capacity. But I just think, again, between the youth and the response and everything like that, I don't know how it's going to continue to translate out. But I was also a big Bruce Arians gal. Like, I'm Risk It Biscuit all day.
Bruce, man, Bruce is one of the coolest. If you can wear a Kango on the sideline, man.
And I'm going to tell you
with the glasses. Every
he's the coolest coach.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you like this, and they'll tell you, I'm not some militant brother. I promise you I'm not that dude, okay? I'm not, but it's just this is where this conversation has gone for me, and I'm just being honest, okay, giving my opinions. And Bruce Arians is responsible for probably more promotions for people of color than any other coach in the league. Like he actively tries to get those guys into
and women too.
And women, because I mean, without it being Women's Month or Black History Month, without it being the national platform and illumination, he was already making those things happen in practices and week to week and day to day. Like it's just the natural human being that he is, and his son's the same way. So that's why I'm big fans of them, because nothing is because it's time to do it. It's because it's the right thing to do.
And he's still around the organization. I've seen him like be there, just kind of like
he bops around.
Overseer and things like that. So,
the best part was the first year after he was no longer the head coach, when the cart would come out and you'd see him driving about. But I mean, if you think of the ailments that this guy has, like prevailed past and stuff, like nothing could keep him away from football and like the people that he loves, and making sure that organization was still going to be protected. So it's getting outside of yourself. You can see what organizations are looking at, what figureheads or players can become figureheads for the organization to bring in money, or what players they give a crap about, who, you know, if it's Sunday dinner and they need this guy at their table, they'll make sure that they feed this guy.
Is Todd Bowles the coach next year for the Tampa Bay Bucks?
I think so. I think that Tampa kind of has a bit of a culture about them. We don't like being wrong. We don't like being wrong in Tampa. It takes a lot for us to get there, you know? And it's just like, okay, we haven't tried everything yet, so like we can't rule it out, which you love and hate, you know, because you want results. We live in an instant gratification generation now, but also like they're not giving up on people. And I think Todd Bowles probably learned and grew a lot this year. I wasn't the biggest fan of Dave Canales, you know, doing his 1 year and then moving on to the Panthers. I think that because he's growing in that role and becoming more of a play caller, obviously he went to the head coach role because it's a younger team over there. I understand the futures of it because of career wise and where he wants to go. I didn't love the fact that you come in for 1 year, you start to build a rapport with a quarterback, and then you move on, because this is your first year really play calling, and now you're wearing a head coach hat. Number one. Number two, I thought Baker deserved better. I think Baker deserves some stability. But this guy that they brought in, Liam, I think he's going to be that guy, because he was just as excited to reunite with Baker. We saw some flashy stuff from him here and there with the Rams. And now if there's a unit that backs up a guy like Baker Mayfield, his confidence is there. It's just going to take the next step. And now he's reeled himself in. He's got his support system. It's about the game and not the antics. And I think that if they build around him, Todd Bowles will keep his job. Liam will stick around, and they'll finally start moving in a direction.
And they almost beat Detroit.
We should have.
And you should have beat. You had Detroit, and then they've now been in the NFC Championship, and then who knows what would happen against San Francisco.
Our defense would have gave San Francisco a run.
Well, man, we this was amazing.
I mean, I was just marking. I said, this is the longest interview
we've done.
Yeah, but we had
because the conversation's
been good.
So I'm thinking to myself, like, hey, we better let her go. We just
right.
I'm good. I didn't even monitor the time. I was just like,
just keep going.
Where are we going? Which team we talking about now?
But the last one, we got to get your prediction. For the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Your score. Any Taylor Swift props or anything like that, because you know she's the talk of the
talk of the town.
She is. I think there was like an over 4.5 camera views for her. So I'm like, all right, guys, hit the over on that.
Definitely.
Because they're gonna want to make sure she makes it safe from Japan. They're gonna want to make sure what outfit she's wearing from the tarmac to the runway. What if she changes on the tarmac? Like, there's a number of things that can happen in 4 views before she even gets settled to start dancing up at her seats. So hit the over on that one. I've really struggled with this one, because if Kyle Shanahan plays his cards right, I have a lot of faith in the Niners. I think that they just have a lot of talent. They have a lot of ability. And even though it's not all the same players in this matchup, you know, when these two teams faced each other 4 years ago, they weren't a second half team. They didn't have that grit or that grind. And they had a quarterback that really just kind of fell apart in the second half. These past 2 weeks, we've seen a second half team. That against a Chiefs team that's so unpredictable, I think is us looking at an entirely different game. I think George Kittle's due. I love the Brock Purdy story more than anybody else's at this moment. The Shanahan-McCaffrey duo following in their father's footsteps. So if they can come in and defense shows up in the first half, maybe not in equal measure, but even louder than they have in the past 2 weeks, I really think the Niners can take it. But when you're talking about betting in people's pockets, and I don't want to be responsible for anyone's groceries and gas next
Kasey
week.
said,
I'm not responsible, y'all.
Don't go in her mentions.
Like my money goes in my
don't come for her.
closet. You can't bet against Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce. It's just they're too much of an improv team. They can change things on the drop of a dime. You don't know what you're game planning for until you're in the game plan. And just because of that, I say the money's safer with the Chiefs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Where can everybody find you?
Thank you guys. This was so much fun. At the Sports Case, Kase, across all my social platforms. I'm on Believe Me with Cam Rogers and Brandon Lang over on
Cam
Believe
Rogers
Network.
On, Brandon Lang on.
I love Cam. His energy, man.
Very energetic.
Such a great energy. So you can find me all over Believe. You can find me at BetQL, actually. That's kind of my home base. Daily boost every morning for best bets of the day and stuff with Lucy Burge and Kate Constable. So, yeah, you can just see everywhere that I'm running through. Tampa Bay Lightning, NHL, and over at the Sports Case, Kase.
Hey,
awesome.
Believe Network is loaded over there.
It is.
Yeah, they got.
And we've had some great interviews. Tomorrow is full with Believe.
Because I told Cam, I said, I thought you was a black dude before you came up here. Your name's Cam Rogers.
And his
energy is
like,
crazy.
you know, depending on your rapport and emails and stuff, you're like, this confident guy.
Right.
He's a stud.
Crash
I love
first.
him.
So what do you want to leave the viewers with? Also, what do you have coming up this week and in the future?
Let's see what's going on this week. I'm trying to remember what day it is. I'm psyched. Tomorrow I get to actually hang out on the FanDuel set. So you'll get, you'll probably hear a lot more of my props and stuff over on FanDuel with Ben Stevens and Donnie, the right side, something last name. I'm not going to butcher his last name. We're new friends. So yeah, I got FanDuel coming up, and then BetQL. We've got the Daily Boost, and then Send It In with PJ Glasser. I'll be with him as well. So a lot of betting stuff rolling out the Super Bowl week, and then I'll get right back into hockey mode. My primary focus, Tampa Bay Lightning, but everything, because now it's time to figure out who we're going to see in playoffs and who's potentially going to the Stanley Cup. And mind you, it just keeps changing. Some of these teams came in a little soft these past 2 days after the break. I know that breaks, every team handles breaks differently, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a wild card that we see this year for the NHL. So a lot of NHL content.
Awesome.
The Central Division for the Stars has been wild.
It's just unpredictable.
I'm wild.
At least you'd be happy to know that I can't get on track with the Avalanche. Something in my gut, it just never lets me go there. You know, they're letting up too many goals still, and I don't care what Nathan McKinnon does because he's competing with my Nikita Kucherov, but it doesn't match.
McKinnon a bad boy, though, eh?
Yeah, he's dirty. He's a dirty man.
That type of.
Yeah, I mean that in a good way. That's a dirty boy.
Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Yes.
Definitely love to have you on again.
Yeah.
Anytime.
You already know you're coming on the real deal again.
Oh, I got you.
Yes, I know it.
I got you. I'm just waiting for the call, Courtney.
Okay. Well, we can make that happen.
Well, you take care.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, Kasey.